The innocent girl is Woo Young-woo. She is 5 years old but still isn't able to speak. Woo Gwang-ho took his daughter everywhere for treatment, but there was still no progress. Until one day, the doctor diagnosed her with autism, which surprised him. While returning home, her father accidentally quarreled with a neighbor. Seeing the homeowner beating her father, the little girl was scared and patted her own head. At this time, an unexpected miracle happened. The first time Woo Young-woo opened her mouth, a series of articles in Korean law. Moreover, she spoke very fluently. Seeing that his daughter was able to talk, Woo Gwang-ho was extremely happy and ignored the argument with his neighbor. After returning home, he asked Young-woo where she learned that. She glanced over the law books beside him. The little girl danced and answered, "Criminal law." She remembers everything without missing a word. The neighbor came over to apologize for her husband's behavior earlier. As for Young-woo's father, tears of happiness spread down his cheeks. It turns out, my daughter is a genius with autism. Just like that, 10 years passed by. The sunlight shimmered through the window, and a new day began again. Woo Young-woo has grown up and become the first autistic lawyer in Korea. Every day she chooses a suitable expression from her father's photos hanging on the wall. Every day her meals are made by her father, who raises his daughter alone. Young-woo likes to eat seaweed rice rolls because she thinks she can see through the food ingredients in it. Today is also the first day Young-woo goes to work at a famous law firm in the area where she lives. Her father was still very worried and told her many things before letting her go. Don't repeat others' words, don't talk nonsense, and don't talk too frankly. Most importantly, don't talk about whales to others. Young-woo has something very different from other people. In her world, there is always a whale that is like a guardian god who grows with her and gives her more motivation and courage to survive with this disease. Despite her good law knowledge, Young-woo gets into trouble on her first day at work. Walking to the company door, it is a revolving door. Young-woo tries her best to pass through several times, but fails. But God does not disappoint good people. Later, a tall, handsome guy comes over and helps her. He helps her resolve this confusion. It is even better when this guy works in the same law office as her. His name is Lee Jun-ho. Seeing Young-woo like that, he doesn't discriminate. On the contrary, he enthusiastically leads Young-woo to the lawyer's office. After opening the door, Young-woo counts 5 seconds before entering. Lawyer Jung, Myung-seok, then looked through Young-woo's profile. To his surprise, there is a note from director Han Seon-young asking him to take care of her. Before he could open his mouth, Young-woo says she has autism spectrum disorder. Just like that, Young-woo continued to say countless strange words. Puppies, chickens, barnyard animals. Young-woo reads the same forward or backward. But these meaningless words made everyone in the office burst into laughter. Lawyer Myung-seok immediately goes to director Han Seon-young and questions her, why hire an autistic lawyer? Director Han says that Young-woo graduated as valedictorian from Seoul National University Law School and also achieved a full score on the law certification exam. How would Hanbada miss such a talent? Lawyer Jung still feels that something is wrong and then continues. Her achievement was due to her outstanding memory ability. A real lawyer needs to have knowledge, experience, good speaking skills, along with good social communication skills. I can't instruct someone who can't introduce themselves. Director Han says, today is her first day at work. Why do you assume she can't do it? Under Director Han's determination, Lawyer Jung could only compromise. He is having a lawsuit that would be used as Young-woo's entrance test. What Young-woo doesn't expect is that her first case as a lawyer is of her old landlady. The landlady lovingly hugs Young-woo, but because of ASD, she is very afraid of other people touching her body. 10 years have passed, and the man's dementia has become more and more serious. One day, a shipper came to the house. The husband suspected that she had feelings for him. After that, he angrily scolded her, saying she was no different from a prostitute. Despite her age, she had enough. She was angry and took an iron and hit her husband on the head. The two had a fight. The husband fell down and fainted. Now she is accused of unsuccessfully attempting to harm someone. The best solution that Lawyer Jung offers is to ask for a suspended sentence. But Young-woo's conclusion is to plead innocent. According to Lawyer Jung, this is completely impossible and truly reckless. He couldn't help but begin to doubt Young-woo's abilities. However, she doesn't panic, but is inspired by whales and finds the exact clue recorded in civil law. This matter does not need to be considered whether it is a crime or not. The focus of this lawsuit should be on criminal law, not civil law. Simply, even if the old man dies, the old lady will not be entitled to any property. Therefore, This crime does not constitute the crime of intentional murder. The most serious charge is only injuring others. Young-woo is confident she can do it. After listening, lawyer Jung also finds it reasonable and nods. He also apologizes for hastily judging Young-woo based on her appearance and her autism. Concerned about Young-woo having difficulty communicating with customers, lawyer Jung specially arranges for Lee Jun-ho to go with her. Seeing Young-woo struggling to get through the door, Jun-ho tells her to just go at the pace and she would be able to pass. With the help of the handsome guy, Young-woo smoothly passes through the revolving door. As soon as she arrives at the hospital, the landlord mad scolds Young-woo. Even though the landlord's behavior makes others uncomfortable and is very difficult to live with, the landlady still takes good care of him. Is it the power of love that people often talk about? They are both old, so to increase the chance of winning the case, she decides to find a way to get the jury involved and lets them see her pitiful situation. Thus, it is possible to gain sympathy from the jury. Relying on Young-woo's communication ability, it is difficult to impress the jury, so they all want to fight for the right to defend in court. But Young-woo does not want to give up. She says, "The key point is for everyone to see the defendant's pitiful scene." Right? There's nothing more pitiful than a disabled look, and she has ASD. Young-woo's words completely move lawyer Jung. He encourages her to prepare well to overcome the language barrier. Young-woo goes to her only friend, Dong-gu-rami, and simulates the scene with her. The trial date finally arrives. Young-woo welcomes her first trial. But after the trial begins, because she was so tense, Young-woo couldn't hear the judge's question. This is the first time a lawyer dares to ignore the judge's word. Lawyer Jung next to her is also worried about this new colleague. But Young-woo sits motionless. The whole scene falls into embarrassment. Lawyer Jung could only grit his teeth and cope. This makes the landlady feel disappointed. After the prosecutor recounts the incident, Young-woo still sits quietly on the chair, rubbing her hands nervously. The judge asks if she does not want to say anything. This makes both Woo Kwang-ho and Dong-gu-rami sitting in the stands worry. Young-woo finally musters up the courage to stand up. Young-woo directly admits that she has ASD. It's difficult for someone who stammers and doesn't act properly like me, but I love the law. As a lawyer, I will restore the innocence of the defendant. A speech full of sincerity and emotion earns the judge's approval. The trial begins. The prosecutor attacks with sharp words, causing difficulties for the landlady. Young-woo immediately expresses anger and loses control, a skill she has learned for a long time, launching a strong counterattack. But to maintain innocence, the most important person is still the landlord. As long as he is brought to court, he will declare his wife's innocence, even if his illness recurs. He would understand what the landlady had gone through. As expected, he once again causes chaos in the trial and is taken out of the scene. Just as Young-woo made her final declaration of innocence, the incident happened. The homeowner passed away on the way to the hospital. The prosecutor changes the charges to the landlady. This sudden bad news catches Young-woo off guard. Then, she attends the funeral ceremony. Here, Young-woo deeply blames herself. "In order to make a perfect sentence, I invited the landlord to court. That's why he passed away." But the landlady doesn't blame her. While Young-woo is stuck in the lawsuit, she discovers that Lee Jun-ho also likes whales. The appearance of whales brings inspiration to Young-woo. She finds the key point to break the deadlock. Before the homeowner was injured by the iron, he had a headache. Furthermore, it is also clearly stated in the police report, the homeowner was hit in the head with an iron but did not have any injuries. That means his brain hemorrhage was most likely not caused by the iron. Furthermore, in police records it was shown that he often had headaches. It is a warning sign of brain hemorrhage due to dementia. The expert doctor also makes a statement. The first trial in Young-woo's life has ended successfully. She successfully clears the landlady of all charges. In the wedding hall, sparkling with splendor and brilliance, the bride and groom step by step walk into the hall. The bride, Kim Hwa-young, accidentally trips on her dress. The dress keeps falling down. At this moment, the entire hall's atmosphere seems to freeze. The guests' eyes turn to the stage. A boy opens his mouth widely, as if he sees something terrible. Nothing is more embarrassing than this, for both families, when the bride exposes herself right at her wedding. Seeing the tattoo on the bride's back, the groom's grandfather, Kim Jong-gu, is so angry that he faints. Just like that, a splendid wedding turns into a joke for everyone to talk about. Then, the bride's father, Chairman Kim Jong-gu, goes to Hanbada law office. Kim Jong-gu, "It cost me $230 million to organize this wedding, yet I had to be humiliated in front of thousands of guests." He wants the hotel to compensate for this accident. The hotel side offers to refund the cost of organizing the wedding and compensate with the hotel's promotional 10 million package. Woo Young-woo, the hotel's plan is very reasonable. But Chairman Kim Jong-gu isn't satisfied. He demands the hotel pay at least 1 billion in compensation. Hearing the number 1 billion, Han Seon-young, the CEO of Hanbada, is a bit surprised because if it is approved, the number will not be that high. Then Chairman Kim Jong-gu brings Taesan law firm into the comparison, Kim Jong-gu. In the end, Hanbada is no different from Taesan. I came here because I thought Hanbada could do it, but unexpectedly they are both useless. Taesan law firm has always been their opponent. Han Seon-young decides to take on this case to prove that her office is in a different position. The lawsuit is transferred to Woo Young-woo's group. But when they analyze all the possibilities, including all the parts to claim compensation, it is impossible to reach 1 billion. They have to find more clues, so they decide to split into 2 teams. Woo Young-woo and Kwon Min-woo go to the bride, Kim Hwa-young's house. Because of that incident, the wedding was postponed. Kim Hwa-young remembers on the fitting day, the dress still fits well, but on the wedding day, it feels looser. The staff said it was probably because she was thinner. Kwon Min-woo discovers that Kim Hwa-young's room is full of pictures of herself, and her wedding photo is thrown in a corner. Furthermore, she does not wear a wedding ring on her hand. Inquiring with the groom, they learn that this wedding was arranged by both families. He and Kim Hwa-young don't have any feelings at all, and since she revealed the Buddha tattoo on her back, his grandfather insists on annulling the marriage because he is a Christian. He feels betrayed. After leaving, Kwon Min-woo couldn't help but start to grumble. Kwon Min-woo, the bride and groom get married in such a hurry. If they want to, they must at least be grown up. Surely, since birth, they have not known how to cook a meal. Woo Young-woo suddenly relates to herself, so she calls Lee Jun-ho to ask. He also believes that adults must cook their own meals and live independently away from their parents. Woo Young-woo, if we consider human standards, all killer whales cling to their mothers. It wasn't until hearing Choi Soo-yeon's voice on the other end of the line that Woo Young-woo stopped. Choi Soo-yeon and Lee Jun-ho are going to the hotel to investigate clues. On the road, Choi Soo-yeon suddenly has a stomach ache. Going into the bathroom, she was still 1 step late. Now, it's really not okay after all. She asks Woo Young-woo to bring her another pair of pants. Woo Young-woo goes to the lobby and meets Lee Jun-ho. Woo Young-woo, I came to find lawyer Choi Soo-yeon. I can't say why I came here, especially I can't tell you. Because Choi Soo-yeon said she can choose any pants, Woo Young-woo chooses for her a pair of floral pajama pants with good material. After changing her pants, her stomach still hurts severely, so Choi Soo-yeon has to give up. She has to let Woo Young-woo pretend to be a couple with her crush, Lee Jun-ho. After that, Lee Jun-ho and Woo Young-woo pretend to be a couple to order wedding dresses. Lee Jun-ho, the reason we rushed to get married is we went over the line. Do you understand? Being exposed, Lee Jun-ho quickly covers for Woo Young-woo. When choosing a wedding dress, Woo Young-woo deliberately chooses the dress that fell down. At the same time, the hotel staff talks on the phone in the bathroom. She mentions that the colleague involved in that incident had been fired. Accidentally, Choi Soo-yeon overhears this story. Lee Jun-ho approaches that employee, intending to get the fired person's contact information, but unsuccessfully. When he sees Woo Young-woo wearing a wedding dress, it seems like she transforms into a princess in a fairy tale. He looks at her deeply and is completely immersed in that beauty. Woo Young-woo smiles brightly and asks what's wrong with him. At this moment, she is no different from an angel, radiating a bright halo. Those auras disappear, and she returns to being an innocent girl, always mentioning whales. Woo Young-woo, fresh cream contains about 30% fat content. Whale milk is much denser than cream because its milk contains about 30 to 50% fat content. So, how much will a baby whale that still drinks breast milk weigh after 6 months? Woo Young-woo's enthusiasm for whales makes Lee Jun-ho feel uneasy eating, so he makes a deal that she can only talk about whales during lunch break. Lee Jun-ho, but when we have to talk about whales, we can talk about it. Only then is Woo Young-woo happy again. And at this moment, they see the hotel staff again. The two come to meet her and reveal their identities. After knowing Kim Hwa-young has to receive psychological treatment and almost has her marriage annulled, finally the waiter musters up the courage to go to court to testify. One day before the wedding, the ordered wedding dress was unfortunately torn, Because the deadline was tight, the hotel manager replaced it with a similar dress, but it was accidentally too loose, so the new dress easily is tripped on. They then fire the employee involved in this. When everyone thinks they win for sure, the opposing lawyer suddenly gives arguments. They investigate and find that after this incident, the bride posted her statement online. The content is that the groom's family is considering canceling the marriage, which is fortunate. If she waits a little longer, she won't have to live with a man she doesn't know. This proves that the wedding dress incident did not affect her psychology at all. Therefore, the hotel does not need to compensate her for mental damages anymore. This is truly hitting a dead end. Woo Young-woo's group immediately holds an emergency meeting. Kim Hwa-young also speaks out what was in her heart at this time. Kim Hwa-young, my marriage is a transaction for my father. Once married, the groom's family will use an expensive piece of land as the wedding presents, and my father has long wanted that piece of land and even has a plan for how to use it. At this moment, Woo Young-woo hears a whale call that brings a new thought to her. Woo Young-woo, before the wedding, the groom's family pledged to give the bride a plot of land. If the dress wasn't pulled down, the groom's grandfather wouldn't have seen the Buddha tattoo on Kim Hwa-young's back. They won't be disappointed and will give you the promised land. But due to the hotel's fault, the bride didn't receive wedding gifts, so it is considered damaged. To claim compensation for this reason, though they are not compensated 33 billion according to the value of the land. Claiming 3 billion is so easy. Unexpectedly, Kim Hwa-young asks her dad to stop. She doesn't want to, but Chairman Kim Jong-gu only cares about money, not his daughter's thoughts. During the trial, everything goes smoothly, but when announcing the final result, Kim Hwa-young decides that she wants to withdraw the lawsuit. Both sides agree, and the judge decides to end the trial. Chairman Kim Jong-gu is angry and scolds his daughter, but Kim Hwa-young says it was her marriage and her life. She doesn't want to marry someone she doesn't love. If she has to get married, she hopes to marry the person she loves. The two have been together for 10 years now. Chairman Kim Jong-gu looks at what is before his eyes and almost has a heart attack. To celebrate the victory of Woo Young-woo's lawsuit, the boss, Han Seon-young, invites everyone to dinner together. When everyone cheers, Lee Jun-ho gently raises his cup to her, expressing his joy to her. When the party ends, Lee Jun-ho is still waiting outside for her to ask if she needs him to take her home. Woo Young-woo basically doesn't understand what he wanted to say, because there are no love cells on her body, and Lee Jun-ho is now attracted by this lovely girl. When the couple, the president of a pharmaceutical company, comes home, they discover their autistic son is pressing on their eldest child and is constantly hitting him in the chest. By the time they push him out, the eldest son is already dead. Meanwhile, the autistic son stands screaming in a corner. The cause of the brother's death was due to damage to his chest. The ribs alone have 22 broken places, causing bleeding inside the chest cavity and resulting in death. There are also light marks on the victim's neck, but they are not fatal. The autopsy says that all the injuries on the boy's body were caused by his autistic younger brother. However, the strange thing is that the alcohol concentration in his blood was extremely high, equivalent to drinking at least 2 bottles of strong wine. The prosecution has sued the younger brother for assaulting another to death. Because he has autism, Myung-seok decides to choose Woo Young-woo, a person with the same condition, to assist, hoping she could communicate more effectively. When they see Woo Young-woo introduce herself, both the president and his wife feel very familiar. Myung-seok explains that Woo Young-woo has the same autism spectrum disorder as their younger son. The defendant's mother says the two brothers are very close. The older brother always takes care of the younger brother, and the younger also listens to him very much. Although the younger brother was born with autism, his older brother was a good child who could not be faulted. The boy not only passed the entrance exam to Seoul University with a perfect score, but also has humility and warmth. No one asks, but the mother flexes too much to gain more clues. Young Myung-seok suggests that Woo Young-woo try talking to the younger brother. It's hard to believe that a person with a huge body like this has the IQ of a 10-year-old child. Woo Young-woo quickly finds things in common with him. Not only do they like to repeat others' words, but their fingers can't keep still either. No matter how much Jung Myung-seok tries to communicate with the younger brother, he fails. He feels helpless, so he asks Woo Young-woo to try. But unexpectedly she asks him, "What happened that day? Why did you beat your brother?" Perhaps Woo Young-woo is too hasty, leading to the younger brother's emotions being agitated. He keeps hitting his head, so everyone stops asking questions. After returning home, Woo Young-woo asks her father, Woo Guang-ho, how to communicate with an autistic person. This statement makes him very sympathetic because he also had a lot of headaches with this before. When Woo Young-woo was young, she couldn't speak but cried. Her father just mentioned the law, and she immediately quieted down and listened. Just use her hobby to comfort her, and she will calm down again. Using her father's words, she notices that the younger brother seems to really like rapping. Just communicate with him by singing and rapping, and they can talk normally. The younger brother finally responds, proving that this method works. Woo Young-woo takes the opportunity to ask him what happened, but as before, he immediately loses control, constantly hitting himself in the head and screaming, "Don't do it! You would die!" At this moment, the whale gives her a hunch. Combined with the information in the autopsy report, there is a possibility that the older brother wanted to end his life, and the younger brother also confirms her thoughts. But the mother says that could not be possible. Every time he loses control of his emotions, no matter what he is asked, he always answers the same way. To look for clues, Woo Young-woo and Lee Jun-ho go to the crime scene and begin searching the entire room. But unexpectedly, in such a serious situation, it seems like they are dancing in the morning light. In the end, they find not only the broken rope, but also the older brother's diary. The diary's contents prove that the older brother had tried to take his own life several times, but every time his younger brother saw it and ran to save him. In the eyes of his parents, he is an excellent person, so he can only constantly strive to not disappoint his parents, but that unintentionally created pressure on him. The boy's parents decide to hide the truth so that their younger son would bear all the blame. They don't want people to talk about their talented son as the center of attention because of pressure leading to suicide. Woo Young-woo disagrees. She thinks that telling the truth to vindicate the second son is the best solution. Those words make the father so angry that he scolds her severely. "You're no good. You're just an autistic child." The case is getting hotter on social networks. Countless internet users do not know the truth and turn into keyboard warriors. They openly disparage autistic people. Some even call for the abolition of the clause mitigating sentences for autistic people. All the insults and cursing are directed towards the younger brother. Unexpectedly, the next day, he takes the car to the lawyer's office by himself. He recognizes Woo Young-woo as his penguin friend. Woo Young-woo says the reason for the crime was because he was in a state of emotional breakdown, uncontrollable due to weak nerves. That condition is caused by the symptoms of congenital autism. The judge turns the point to her, saying she was also autistic but had no such symptoms. So using the excuse of mental weakness to ask for a reduced crime is unreasonable. That puts unprecedented invisible pressure on Woo Young-woo. Returning to the office, Lee Jun-ho discovers that she was planning to commit suicide. He panics and quickly pulls out the rope, causing the two of them to fall down. This is the first time they have such intimate contact. Lee Jun-ho is engrossed in looking at the girl in front of him, even forgetting his hands are still placed on her butt. It turns out Woo Young-woo is just trying to simulate the crime scene. At this moment, the whale rises up to the surface again, giving her a hunch. Combined with Lee Jun-ho's previous action to save people, she speculates that the broken bones in the chest in the autopsy report were most likely caused when the younger brother tried to give first aid to his brother. For the broken bones in the back, the victim fell down when his brother came to save him. Although it can't remove the crime, it can erase the suspicion of assaulting the victim, leading to death. At that time, the father's conscience also awakens. Even if I feel ashamed, I must clear my son's unjust sentence. At this time, Woo Young-woo says she is no longer suitable to defend this case. When I am with Lee Jun-ho, other people think he is a care worker for people with disabilities. Or, when the driver held the defendant back, it was clear that I had money on me, but he thought I didn't have the ability to handle that either. Although I understand that my autism is different from other people, the judge does not know that. I am not a lawyer who could help the defendant. Although Woo Young-woo does not act as a defense lawyer until the end, her arguments are very accurate, and that much has cleared the guilt of the autistic brother. However, because she suffers great criticism after this case, she also submits her resignation. The first case after being officially hired also becomes her last. After quitting her job, Woo Young-woo works as a waitress, carrying and pouring drinks for her father's restaurant. Her best friend, Dong-gil-ra-mi, goes to Woo Young-woo for help. Her father, Woo Guang-ho, was deceived by her eldest and second uncles since her grandfather passed away. 50 acres of land in the countryside have always been in her father's name, but recently that area has been designated as an exploitation zone. The government will compensate 10 billion won. If the money is divided equally among the three families, it's enough for them to live comfortably. Yet, her uncles said that, according to inheritance law, The eldest gets half of the property, the second child gets 3 parts, and the youngest gets 2 parts. Woo Gwang-ho lived all his life in the countryside, so he did not know about the law. Moreover, he thought that his siblings would not deceive him, so he carelessly sealed the contract. Only later did he find out that the contract the eldest uncle asked him to sign had a clause stating that all tax expenses were paid by him. All tax expenses total exactly 2.3 billion won. Even if they receive 2 billion in compensation, they still have to make up an additional 300 million won. Woo Young-woo helps their family check the signed contract. It's obvious that the eldest uncle had prepared very carefully in advance, so the content inside had no loopholes. The only way out is that he lied about the terms of the inheritance law. Contracts signed in cases of fraud can be annulled. Because she quit her job, she asks Lee Jun-ho to find Jung Myung-seok, a lawyer. He says that contracts in cases like this are fully signed and sealed, and they don't have the ability to win. No one will want to take this job. He also says that if she has anything to say, she should come directly to the company. Jung Myung-seok refuses this case and tells her to come back and solve it herself. She should take responsibility herself. Why push it to other colleagues? Perhaps Woo Young-woo was the only one who still doesn't understand that he is trying to help her return. When she is about to leave, Lee Jun-ho chases after her. He asks her if she saw any gifts on the table. Unexpectedly, Woo Young-woo says she didn't know it was a gift from him, so she threw it in the trash. He could say nothing because of her innocence. Seeing Lee Jun-ho's eyes following Woo Young-woo as she leaves, Dong-ge-mi intuitively understands the eyes of a lover. In court, the eldest uncle carefully prepares the script to win the case. He refuses to admit what he said, and no one can prove that they deceived Woo Gwang-ho. Suddenly, Woo Gwang-ho and his wife remember something. That day, their family invited a worker to repair the roof. Normally, this person is talkative and gossipy. Surely he heard the whole thing. So everyone came to the house to find that worker. Sure enough, he had indeed heard their conversation. Now, they have a witness. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief. Dong-ge-mi wants to create opportunities for Woo Young-woo and Lee Jun-ho, so she whispers to him, "There's a dating mecca nearby. I will not be a light bulb, so take your chance." Lee Jun-ho quickly understands what she meant. He takes Woo Young-woo to the dating mecca. The two go for a walk together. But when they are alone, their conversation topic only revolves around sea creatures. Under the sunset, Lee Jun-ho asks Woo Young-woo why she quit her job as a lawyer. She replies that no matter her status as a lawyer or anything else, in everyone's eyes, she is still just an autistic patient. People with autism always need help. Her words make him feel both pity and regret. He wants to say that he is on the same side as her. "Hopefully Woo Young-woo can stand on the same side with me," Lee Jun-ho says. His words are like a shining light. This is the first time she has received such a sincere compliment from someone. At the same time, Kwon Min-woo finds Jung Myung-seok. He sees that Woo Young-woo quit her job without reason and without being punished. She can also choose which cases she wants to take on. Even though Jung Myung-seok still refuses to handle her resignation letter, those things make people at the same level as him. Jung Myung-seok says, "That's because Woo Young-woo is an excellent lawyer, but she also possesses sharp and innovative thinking. As long as Kwon Min-woo observes carefully, he will learn many things from her." On the second court date, the witness is bribed by the uncle and tells the opposite truth. When everyone is about to give up, Woo Young-woo's whale friend gives her a hunch. If there is no evidence, we can create evidence, she thinks. Today is her grandfather's death anniversary. Dong-ge-mi tries to get drunk and goes to her eldest uncle's house. She pretends to be drunk and scolds her uncle for using money to buy witnesses in front of everyone. She also calls the second uncle a dog, hiding behind the eldest uncle. The eldest uncle gets angry and slaps her. Woo Gwang-ho, who is always gentle, shows his attitude for the first time. The whole family is in chaos. The eldest uncle keeps hitting without knowing that he is in a trap. Now, when the property recipient commits a crime against the person donating the property or that person's blood relatives, the donor has the right to cancel the donation contract based on the regulation of Article 556, Clause 1.1. My client has additional legitimate reasons to decide to cancel the contract, Woo Young-woo declares. The lawyer on the other side also says everything was intentionally set up to deceive his client. Woo Young-woo doesn't let him do it, asking if he has proof of that. Those words immediately lead him to a dead end. Her colleagues silently praise her great performance. The uncles, having lost miserably, take the initiative to admit their mistake. Woo Guang-ho has the right to choose to inherit 10 billion won alone, but he decides to forgive them. The compensation will be divided equally among all three families. After helping her friend recover the loss by her own efforts, Woo Young-woo regains her trust. She returns as someone who can help others. After withdrawing the resignation letter, she feels that the world around her has become warmer. The boss assigns Kwon Min-woo and Woo Young-woo to take on new tasks this time. However, he doesn't tell her this when she comes to find him. He says he forgot, then gives her a stack of documents, telling her to go check them out first. He doesn't even give her time to ask if the customer has arrived. Even when she introduces herself, he interrupts, basically not giving her a chance to express herself completely. This shows that this case would be handled by him alone. Kwon Min-woo tries his best to get to the customer and make them forget Woo Young-woo's existence. They invent a new model of an automatic teller machine. There was another company whose product was almost exactly the same as theirs, so he wants to sue the other side for copying the product. The other party copied their products from A to Z. They have applied for a copyright license but have not been approved. The details of the situation have been told but are still very vague. Lawyer Woo Young-woo is very disappointed with her performance today. He blames her for not preparing the documents in advance, but he doesn't know that all of this was Kwon Min-woo's plan. He considers himself and Woo Young-woo to be competitors. Why does he have to share his documents with his opponents? Very quickly, the first trial takes place. The opposing lawyer said that this engineering project had been shared publicly in an exhibition. Both companies just refer to that project to make their own products. However, the client of Woo Young-woo does not admit that their company had participated in that exhibition. They claim that this product is researched and produced by themselves. But the other side says that they already have another company that also makes this product, though it's closed now. Both companies referenced other people's projects. There is absolutely no way anyone copied anyone, but the third company no longer maintains the product. Therefore, no one can prove that they were the first to discover it. As a result, the trial has to be postponed. Woo Young-woo begins to doubt. She supposes that her client's company's product is not of their own devising. When she mentions this issue, it also means that she has violated the great taboo of a lawyer, doubting her customers. Kwon Min-woo is completely different from her. He thinks that he just needs to help his client win this lawsuit. Woo Young-woo finds her best friend Dong Gurami again. The two come to a conclusion. Just look at the other's glabella. If that person lies, they will be sweating and doing other small movements. Woo Young-woo finds her father, Woo Guang-ho, to do the experiment. A customer comes to the restaurant but criticizes everything. She immediately asks her father if he hated that guest. Unexpectedly, that aunt hears it. To protect the restaurant's business, Woo Guang-ho has to abandon their relationship. He says he doesn't know her. She is just a guest coming here to eat. From there, she also gets the answer. It turns out that the liar's expression will change, but she still wants to prove it again. So she continues to find Lee Jun-ho to do experiments. Lee Jun-ho, do you like Woo Young-woo? The innocent words make Lee Jun-ho sweat, and he quickly changes the subject. Thanks to that, the awkward atmosphere is relieved. To investigate the lawsuit, Woo Young-woo and Lee Jun-ho go to the factory together. Unexpectedly, their client has a car accident. She originally intends to observe his glabella, hands, and feet to judge whether he was lying. Who would have thought it would be such a coincidence? This time, he was injured in all three parts. They can only go to the head of the research department to investigate. The head knows she is a lawyer and immediately tenses up, avoiding Woo Young-woo's questions. His body also makes many small movements. Seeing him like that reminds Woo Young-woo of Pinocchio. At this time, Kwon Min-woo calls and tells the client that he has this matter firmly in hand, telling him not to worry. But this makes Woo Young-woo very worried. Since she joined this law firm, she has won every case and has never lost. This time, working with Kwon Min-woo, she doesn't want to lose even more. She tells the client that if the department head had appeared in court to testify, it could have a very good effect. A witness like him, even if he doesn't tell the truth, won't have to face any punishment in court. After listening, the department head takes a deep breath. Woo Young-woo tells him not to do those things. Woo Young-woo originally doesn't want to use this trick, but because of the interests of the client, she had to do so. Only Lee Jun-ho can see the tension in her heart at this moment. Indeed, in this trial, because of the preparation, the witness performs extremely well. Even the client, who knows the truth, sheds tears. Woo Young-woo returns to her seat, and lawyer Myung-seok praises her on the successful lawsuit. But Kwon Min-woo doesn't bother to care about her, then takes all the credit for himself. After that, the client gives her a gift, a picture of sunflowers representing good luck. He arbitrarily decides to take down her lawyer's certificate. Then, Woo Young-woo receives a letter from the opposing company. They ask her why she knows the truth, but doesn't reveal it. But the customers have demanded to return the goods. The company is now on the brink of bankruptcy. Perhaps this is the result that unscrupulous lawyers like you want to see, the letter reads. After reading, she feels very sad. She realizes that she just wanted to win the case without finding out the truth. When she is heartbroken, it is only Choi Soo-yeon who stands up to help her. Woo Young-woo says Choi Soo-yeon is like spring sunshine. Hearing these sincere words makes Choi Soo-yeon really moved. After many efforts, the lawsuit also makes new progress. The opponent finds a machine that is enough to prove that everyone was referring to the same product. There is basically no copying. Everything has been resolved. The opposing company also wins the lawsuit. During the trial process, their client's company signs contracts with all businesses. Their products have been sold out. Woo Young-woo is sad, not because this is the first time she loses a lawsuit, but because the truth has been buried just because of the desire to win the case. Woo Young-woo doubts herself for the first time. Returning to her office, she holds the letter sent to her last time, then takes down the sunflower picture and pastes the letter in its place. She uses it to warn herself. To be a lawyer, one must look at the truth and have professional ethics. She must be an excellent lawyer. A woman takes her child to the orphanage. The nurses here are worried about her, afraid that she'll get tired from holding the baby like that. But the woman is afraid and says she has to give her baby sleeping pills to make her sleep. She can't wake her baby up. The nurse is very surprised and doesn't understand why she does that. The woman also seems to see the doubt in her eyes. She explains that she is a North Korean refugee and is going to jail. But in the end, the child wakes up and cries for her mother. Regardless of how much her child cries, she resolutely leaves. This time, the lawsuit is handled by Choi Soo-yeon. Lee Jun-ho feels that she cares too much about this matter and is afraid that her mood will be unstable. He hopes Woo Young-woo will go find Choi Soo-yeon and talk to her. When Woo Young-woo goes to Choi Soo-yeon's office, she is surprised by the scene before her eyes. This place is now like a dump. Choi Soo-yeon has completely turned it into her home, not knowing when to get off work or take a break. She even comfortably changes clothes right in front of Woo Young-woo. Choi Soo-yeon wants Woo Young-woo to come to prison with her, to visit the litigant and learn about the situation of this case. To their surprise, the litigant is in a very good mood. She feels that this place, where she can eat and sleep, but before she could finish her exclamation, Woo Young-woo interrupts and directly asks why she went to prison. The litigant immediately tells them everything. The foster mother who brought her here owed her a sum of money that was temporarily unpaid, and someone also owed her a sum of money, so she sent her and another person to collect the debt. When the two went to the debtor's house, they saw that the door wasn't locked. The two discussed that, in order to get money, they had to act like gangsters. So they quickly took up their weapons. Her teammate broke anything in her way, wanting to show her power to collect money quickly. As a result, the neighbors downstairs heard the noise and called the police. Then, both were arrested and sentenced to 4 years in prison. Before her trial, she escaped. Until now, after more than 4 years, she returns to confess. The reason she ran away is only one. Her husband died in a car accident and is afraid that when she is not here, there will be no one to take care of her daughter. At that time, her baby was still too little. If she went to prison, her daughter would no longer remember her face. Now that her child has grown up, she also takes her to the orphanage, so there's no need to worry anymore. She just hopes that, like her accomplices, she will only be imprisoned for 4 years, and then can be reunited with her daughter. Her story is very touching. Woo Young-woo is determined to help this woman reduce her crime to the lowest level. This leaves Jung Myung-seok speechless. Originally, he told Woo Young-woo to advise Choi Soo-yeon not to be too stubborn. Now, it's good that both of these people are the same. Woo Young-woo, Choi Soo-yeon, and Lee Jun-ho then go to meet the doctor from that year. Unexpectedly, they see her husband brutally beating her. His actions make Woo Young-woo feel very scared. Choi Soo-yeon and Lee Jun-ho quickly protect her. They are about to call the police when the aunt next to them has already called. Very quickly, the first trial takes place. Woo Young-woo interrupts the opposing lawyer's speech, and at the same time, the judge also interrupts her. He interrupts simply to remind her that if she wants to ask later, she has to raise her hand. The victim is also present. Her face is injured, making everyone sitting here feel confused. Choi Soo-yeon sees this and tells the truth. The wounds on her face were all caused by her husband beating her. It was the same a few years ago. That year, he was also convicted for this matter. The next day, the defendant came to collect the debt. Therefore, the police misunderstood that the victim's face was beaten by those two people. Unexpectedly, the victim says she doesn't remember anything. Myung-seok wants to release the situation, so he intends to request a temporary halt to the trial. But Woo Young-woo stops him, because if he wants to interrupt the judge, he would have to raise his hand. At the next trial, the doctor to assess the victim's injuries arrives, but he is an anti-North Korean refugee. Because of personal hatred, he denies that the wound on the victim's face was caused by her husband. He says that it was caused by the debt collector. The case quickly falls into a disadvantage. Woo Young-woo brings the defendant's daughter to meet her once before the final verdict. Looking at the scene of them embracing each other, Woo Young-woo immediately remembers her old self. Why do other kids have their parents by their side? But she only has her dad. When she was young, her mother left her and her father, so Woo Young-woo no longer remembers what her mother looked like. Therefore, she also doesn't want other children to be without a mother like her. She meets the judge privately even though this is against the rules. She really wants to express her feelings. However, to others, what she says is just excuses, having no value. There is basically no sufficient basis. Law is law. There is no humanity here. The judge appreciates the attitude of young people like them, but the result remains unchanged. Even though he said so, he quite acknowledges Woo Young-woo's thoughts. He believes that the law is fair, and the final result does not disappoint everyone. The defendant is sentenced to 1 year and 9 months in prison, reducing 3 years. The reason is very simple. People desperately look for excuses but forget the most basic thing, which is that the defendant confessed. This is the most basic reason to reduce the crime. Moreover, she didn't cause too much harm. Even the owed money could not be collected. Besides, she is also a good mother, so the judge agrees to reduce the charges. Woo Young-woo's law firm, Hanbada, has a new case today. The government wants to build a new road that needs to go through a village, but all the villagers disagree. Before, the subway station was also built, passing through their village, and then a garbage incineration station was constructed in the village. Now, to build this road, many households would have to relocate, but the amount of compensation is too little for the people there. This ruins the villagers' living conditions. The subway makes them have to listen to noise all day long, and the project causes air pollution. They can endure those things, but this time, building a new road, they resolutely do not agree. So, the village chief came to find a lawyer. He wanted to sue the government, hoping they could reverse this decision or change to another route. However, this lawsuit is very difficult because, after all, this is a government lawsuit. The lawyer Jung Myung-seok cannot guarantee anything. He plans to ask experts in this field before making a decision. After reviewing the situation, experts all say that going through their village was the best route and also the most economical. Therefore, he supposes that this lawsuit has no chance of winning and refuses them. But the village chief does not want to give up. He tells them to survey the village before deciding. Woo Young-woo also follows them out. Last time, she saw Lee Jun-ho talking to Choi Soo-yeon, so she misunderstood that he liked her. That makes her very disappointed. Little does she know that the person Lee Jun-ho actually likes is her. When going up the mountain, Woo Young-woo unfortunately falls. Lee Jun-ho is the first person to help her up and brush off the dirt on her. Seeing her shirt is torn, he immediately takes off his shirt and puts it on her. He always shows concern for her anytime, anywhere. After arriving at the village, they see the charming, poetic scenery here, with fresh air. They decide to keep the natural beauty of this place. So the next day, they agree to accept the case. Everyone is full of vitality, but when faced with a huge amount of work, they immediately feel dizzy. Seeing Lee Jun-ho's concern for Woo Young-woo, Choi Soo-yeon immediately sees that he has feelings for her. So she encourages Woo Young-woo to muster up all her courage to face it. It seems that Lee Jun-ho likes you. What are you planning? You also like Lee Jun-ho, right? But Woo Young-woo says, "It is difficult for someone to like me. I know for myself that you are very beautiful, and I am autistic." Unexpectedly after that, she is scolded by Choi Soo-yeon. "Don't say those words. It's not difficult." Hearing Choi Soo-yeon's words, Woo Young-woo remembers that day she was with Lee Jun-ho, and she is sure she likes him too. So, Woo Young-woo runs to find Dong-gurami to ask for help. Dong-gurami tells her, "If you want to confirm whether you like that person or not, Just touch him. If your heart beats wildly, it proves that you like that person. In the end, very quickly, the first trial has opened. But unexpectedly, the other side is the Queen of Lawyers, Soo-mi. As soon as she appears, she overwhelms everyone present. It is clearly the first time meeting her, but Woo Young-woo feels like she has known her before. Soo-mi deserves the title of Queen. After Woo Young-woo proposes the argument of using other road construction options, Soo-mi immediately uses 3D simulation to deny those options. Moreover, just using a few short sentences, she can provoke people. Her purpose is to base on their language, accusing them of causing chaos in society. A series of attacks leaves Woo Young-woo's side unable to react in time and puts an end to the trial. Soo-mi's charisma and arrogant confidence make Woo Young-woo feel she truly slayed. When Woo Gwang-ho, Woo Young-woo's father, sees her looking up documents about her mother, he is surprised. Perhaps the thing he is most worried about has happened. Moreover, it seems that his daughter worships her very much, which makes him feel anxious. So, he finds his junior, Seon-young, the CEO of Hanbada. He thinks that everything is arranged by her with the goal of one day using Woo Young-woo to defeat her mother and make her law firm the best company. Although a father like him does not want his child to be taken advantage of, he knows his daughter's autism has brought her a big obstacle. No law firm dares to accept her. Only Han Seon-young's company gives her a chance. He then goes out and coincidentally meets Woo Young-woo. He quickly says he was here to find friends and then leaves. But Kwon Min-woo sees the problem. He says to come here for friends, but is coming out of the director's office. He guesses that Woo Young-woo has backing, and that person is none other than Han Seon-young. During break time, Choi Soo-yeon encounters Lee Jun-ho, so she talks to him frankly. She also sees that Lee Jun-ho actually has feelings for Woo Young-woo, so she reminds him, Woo Young-woo is a very sensitive person. If your emotions are just temporary and you don't think about the future with her, then don't hurt her. The next trial begins. Woo Young-woo finds clues about the construction company's violations of regulations. According to the law, before planning, their side must first conduct an assessment of the impact on the environment there. However, 2 years before the assessment, they have already completed the planning, so that plan is invalid. Soo-mi objects that when the trial is about to fail again, Woo Young-woo's fish friend arises again, bringing new thoughts to her. Woo Young-woo continuously turns over the documents she has read in her mind, finally finding the right answer. Before determining the construction plan, the company unilaterally rejects the people's complaint letter and overturns the assessment report. Woo Young-woo could not only clearly state the name of the document, but also remember the details of the content. She recites without missing a word. That wonderful ability helps the case gain a chance to be reconsidered. That evening after work, Woo Young-woo calls Lee Jun-ho and asks if she could touch him. I want to confirm if I like you. Don't you have to touch me to confirm? I want to test how fast my heart can beat when I touch you. However, when Lee Jun-ho approaches, she suddenly steps back. When their eyes meet, Woo Young-woo suddenly closes her eyes. But when they are about to kiss, Woo Young-woo feels like her heart is exploding. After returning home, Woo Gwang-ho, in order to prevent her from seeing her mother, tells her about her admission to the Hanbada law firm. It is because of his relationship with Han Seon-young. He wants to use it as a reason for Woo Young-woo to give up being a lawyer. This truth shocks her. She thinks it is because of her ability, but it is thanks to a relationship. This makes her unable to accept it. At the same time, Kwon Min-woo posts anonymously on the company's internal forum. Before moving ahead, remember that if you like this content, give it a like. Subscribe and comment on what other drama you would like to see in the following videos. He implies that Woo Young-woo relies on her father and the director's friendship to go backdoor. He believes that this is unfair to employees who are recruited by ability. This quickly becomes a hot topic within the company for co-workers to chat about. Though the post is anonymous, Choi Soo-yeon swiftly sees through it. She asks him why he did that. Of course, she isn't the only one who knows. Han Seon-young, the director, uses the excuse of the lawsuit to come here to give everyone her opinion, but actually to warn Kwon Min-woo. They come up with a countermeasure for this lawsuit, hoping the result can be changed. But the director thinks they are too naive, so she suggests that they bring reporters along. It's like someone posted on the company forum. Although this statement of hers does not point out anyone, it has already made one nervous. Choi Soo-yeon also tells this to Woo Young-woo, but Young-woo admits that she is here thanks to the relationship between her father and Han Seon-young. This makes Soo-yeon very angry. It is clear that Young-woo is excellent and does much better than others. Just because you have autism, you lose your confidence. Soo-yeon tells Young-woo, if Min-woo is still like that, don't be polite to him. Aggressively teach him a lesson. The day the judge goes to the site, an unexpected situation happens. Choi Soo-yeon proposes using high compensation to make the villagers no longer oppose the construction. Some have accepted to sign. The village chief leads everyone to the ancient tree, aiming to impress everyone by the beautiful nature. But the weather isn't very supportive. It ruins the atmosphere, so the judge feels he doesn't need to see anymore. Most of the villagers have agreed, so the petition will be returned. The opposing lawyer also takes this opportunity to invite Woo Young-woo to the company. She hopes that after this, she can go to Taesan to work. Unexpectedly, their conversation is seen by Kwon Min-woo. When Young-woo returns, he starts making innuendos. This time, Young-woo is tougher. If you say so again, I'll hit you on the head or punch you hard in the stomach. I won't let you bully me anymore. Young-woo's appearance makes him angry. He even admits that he is the one who posted about her. After that, he repeats, Woo Young-woo goes backdoor to become a lawyer. Hearing that, Young-woo also feels that she should learn to be independent. When she gets home, she tells her father, Woo Gwang-ho, that she wants to work in Taesan. Then, packing her bags and going out to live, her father has no choice but to tell her the hidden truth. That woman is your mother, the one who gave birth to you. In a moment of confusion, Young-woo falls down the stairs. In the hospital, her father finally tells her everything about the past. He and her mother, Soo-mi, knew each other in college, but because of their impulsive youth, they had her. Because of that, they woke up. How can a poor guy be worthy of a rich girl? Then he would take her away and never appear in front of her mother again. Just like that, Young-woo was born, and they never met again, as promised. Young-woo suddenly sits up when the wind of inspiration blows. The whale jumps out of the water. Young-woo finds the key to fix the situation. The old tree in the village is recognized by experts as a natural conservation heritage. It just hasn't been licensed yet and needs to be assessed. Then, they can apply for a license to become a conservation area. But, despite winning, Young-woo is not very happy. After the trial ends, she meets her mother, Soo-mi. She wants to tell her about their relationship. I missed Gwang-ho's daughter. I also know who Soo-mi really is. So, I think I can't work at Taesan. I originally planned to leave Hanbada because I want to be independent from my father, but I couldn't go to my mother's place. That person even gave birth and then abandoned me. Now, that mother doesn't even recognize me. Young-woo's mother tries to control her emotions and asks if she hated her, but she doesn't know. This question is too difficult for someone who doesn't recognize emotions like Young-woo. Young-woo recalls and says, when the two of them stood under the old tree, all these children are on their way to that bus, not to go home, but to the tutoring centers. On the bus, the driver is sleeping soundly in the passenger seat, and in the driver's seat is a strange young man. He introduces himself as Bang Gu-pong, the commander-in-chief of the Children's Liberation Army. Bang Gu-pong announces that he is taking over the bus. The bus will no longer go to the academy, but will take the students out to play. Thanks to his sense of humor, Bang Gu-pong wins the hearts of the students on the bus. He also says, if anyone wants to study, please get off the bus. The other children will go out to play to free their youth. Hearing that they can go out, after that, Bang Gu-pong drives the bus to a mountain and plays with the students for nearly 4 hours. At this time, Lee Jun-ho and Woo Young-woo are at court. Woo Young-woo's face has eyelashes that could have been simple to brush off, but Lee Jun-ho seems extremely stressed. This intimate action of Lee Jun-ho makes Woo Young-woo remember that night. Her heart is pounding again. Woo Young-woo realizes that it is because she already likes Lee Jun-ho that she has this feeling. Woo Young-woo's heart is beating madly, so she doesn't dare to stay any longer and runs away. This time, the case she is in charge of is Bang Gu-pong's child kidnapping case. Bang Gu-pong is the son of Mujin Academy's principal. He robs the car of the academy that his mother manages. Although he does not cause any harm, he is still sued by the prosecution for kidnapping minors. Bang Gu-pong tells Woo Young-woo that his goal is to help children laugh happily. Although he doesn't seem that bad at first glance, Woo Young-woo never expects that Bang Gu-pong would be her most unreliable defendant. Answering the judge's question, Bang Gu-pong declares himself the commander-in-chief of the Children's Liberation Army. His address is to live in the hearts of children. The answer is so unusual and arrogant that Woo Young-woo doesn't know what to say. Gu-pong is placed in temporary detention by the judge. At the trial, his mother is so focused on nurturing other children without realizing that her child is going in the wrong direction. She asks that, for her son not going to jail, she is willing to do everything. Not only is Woo Young-woo's case now unfair and unfavorable, but since she confessed her love, Lee Jun-ho also has no opinion. Woo Young-woo feels a headache and doesn't know what to do. Dong-gu-ra-mi confirms that Lee Jun-ho already likes Woo Young-woo. Her best friend tells Woo Young-woo to act when she likes someone. Those words enlighten the baby whale. The next day when she meets Bong Gu-pong, he tells her, during the 4 hours that he spent with the children, he let them play freely and do what they found fun. He let them roast sweet potatoes themselves. Then, each child smiles brightly like the sun. To let the children see something new and still have fun is his purpose in taking the children to the mountain. Woo Young-woo suddenly discovers that Bang Gu-pong seems to be emitting some special, brilliant aura. When it's time to eat, Woo Young-woo unexpectedly does not talk about whales, but only about Bang Gu-pong. It makes Lee Jun-ho feel bitter. He asks Woo Young-woo why she mentions him. She replies because she enjoys being with Bang Gu-pong. Lee Jun-ho feels jealous because it is the first time Woo Young-woo is talking about someone else so happily. At this moment, Woo Young-woo suddenly remembers what her friend said. She quickly takes the initiative to pull out a chair for Lee Jun-ho. Seeing that he likes to eat pickled radish, she immediately gives him her pickled radish. It turns out, liking someone is that simple. As for Lee Jun-ho, he keeps feeling like there is something wrong, but can't say it. Woo Young-woo looks at him and keeps smiling innocently. On the trial day, Woo Young-woo defends Bang Gu-pong, but he suddenly admits all the charges. I actively admit that I have drugged the driver and took the children to the mountain. I don't want to give the kids the impression of lying. The defendant objects to the defense attorney's words. This leaves the judges stunned. The lawyers have no choice but to find a way from the children's parents. If the kids all really like Bang Gu-pong, maybe they can convince their parents not to pursue anymore. Woo Young-woo and Lee Jun-ho go to where the children usually go. Learning that the extra class lasts from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m., if going to the bathroom more than twice during that time, it's the type of study that's super pressured, like a prison. Woo Young-woo notices that the children are all wearing acorns similar to the one of Bang Gu-pong. In order to be forgiven by the parents and help her son avoid going to jail, the headmaster kneels down in front of them to beg. She says Bang Gu-pong is a stupid child with mental problems. He doesn't understand what he says means. She also guarantees that she would strictly guard her son in the future. In the end, the parents signed to withdraw the petition. Before leaving, Woo Young-woo couldn't help but say, she shouldn't have said Bang Gu-pong is a stupid child. The headmaster is made to laugh by her words. How one who only knows him in a few days can understand better than a mother like her? Woo Young-woo keeps saying, I've only met him a few times, but I can still see he's good. Shouldn't a mother like you think better? Shouldn't you open your heart to listen to what he wants to say? This statement deeply shocks the headmaster. At the court, the doctor says that if Bang Gu-pong had such paranoia, he could avoid punishment. But at this moment, Woo Young-woo's hunch wind suddenly blows. The whale suddenly appears in the court as if it wants to say something to Woo Young-woo. So, Woo Young-woo stands up and talks about the super pressured learning style at the academy, along with the situation of children losing their childhood, making everyone agree. Woo Young-woo proves Bang Gu-pong's idea is not wrong. He is also not a paranoid patient. Seeing the original plan is about to collapse, Jung, Myung-seok just intends to stop her. Bang Gu-pong proactively says he wants to hear Woo Young-woo speak. The headmaster also sees her son with such an expression for the first time. At this moment, Bang Gu-pong's eyes seem to radiate endless radiance. If following the path of paranoia, he can avoid the practice of imprisonment. But what Woo Young-woo cannot accept is calling a person who radiates a positive aura a mental patient. This is extremely insulting. As the defendant's attorney, she will protect the defendant's spiritual dignity. Bang Gu-pong also expresses that he does not regret what he did. At this time, the case could not be fixed. The case, which could have been resolved, is ruined by Woo Young-woo. Kwon Min-woo angrily asks Jung Myung-seok why Woo Young-woo is not punished. Unexpectedly, Jung Myung-seok feels disappointed with his attitude. He says, Kwon Min-woo, you seem to like punishment so much that you wrote such a post on the company forum. If you disagree while working, you should discuss it together to resolve the issue. Finally, during the announcement, the children were all brought here. Bang Gu-pong also teaches them a lesson that having fun while growing up isn't wrong. He says, Even if you encounter difficulties later on, you must continue bravely. When Woo Young-woo gets off work, Lee Jun-ho finally musters up the courage to confess his love to her. The next day on the subway, Woo Young-woo coincidentally meets the police arresting criminals. She points out the illegality in the execution process. The police are surprised and ask if she is a lawyer. Woo Young-woo introduces herself as a lawyer at Hanbada law firm, which surprises them. A guy named Jung directly finds her to defend himself. It turns out that when he joins an organization for disabled people, he and a disabled girl named Ha-yang fall in love and have already made love. After that, Jung is sued by the girl's mother. Although it's hard for normal people to believe that disabled people can love, Woo Young-woo says that disabled people are very simple, and no one can take away their right to love. She sympathizes with their love path and agrees to accept this mission. Myung-seok also supports Woo Young-woo to avoid her getting hurt. Hearing Lee Jun-ho's confession makes Woo Young-woo's head empty. She doesn't know how to face it, panics, and chooses to run away. Her best friend, Dongyu Rami, is angered by Woo Young-woo's actions. She says, "Opportunity comes to you, but you don't know how to grasp it. They can try dating and slowly get to know each other." So Woo Young-woo especially creates a to-do list for dating Lee Jun-ho. Lee Jun-ho is surprised by this unique idea, and their relationship is finally determined. Before the two are about to hold hands, Woo Young-woo takes out her phone to use the stopwatch. Because of the effects of autism, she cannot hold hands like a normal person. Even with her boyfriend, she can only endure for 57 seconds. Lee Jun-ho holds Woo Young-woo's hand for the first time and feels really happy. Every second passes very quickly, and in an instant, she reaches the limit she can endure. Myung-seok tells Woo Young-woo to stay calm at the trial. As the defendant's lawyer, Woo Young-woo uses her identity as an autistic lawyer to speak, minimizing everyone's emotional shock. But when she shows a conversation about Jung and Ha-yang's relationship, to conclude that the two are in a normal love relationship, this immediately leads to a scolding. The doctor says that the mentally disabled girl wouldn't be able to distinguish if the other has bad intentions or not. Furthermore, in the report, the girl records that during sex, she felt both scared and disliked. The case seems very clear since the victim's description is decisive. In front of the bathroom, Ha-yang looks for Woo Young-woo as if she has something to say, but right then, her mother appears and stops her. Ha-yang can only say, "I'm by myself when I go to the bathroom," and then is dragged away by her mother. But Woo Young-woo has never heard of this place. At this time, Myung-seok tells Woo Young-woo that Jung has joined a similar group before and fell in love with another mentally disabled person. Because of that, he is still under police investigation. Woo Young-woo, in anger, can't accept the act of bullying disabled people. Therefore, she decides to withdraw from this case. In the evening, Woo Young-woo and Lee Jun-ho go on a date and meet his classmate by chance. The girl realizes that Woo Young-woo is disabled and thinks that Lee Jun-ho is just pitying her. Woo Young-woo soon gets used to such discriminatory remarks. Lee Jun-ho quickly explains, and seeing that his classmates don't believe him, he admits they are dating. Woo Young-woo suddenly sees that the girl's cup has the word bathroom, and immediately her wind of inspiration blows. The whale jumps out of the water again. Woo Young-woo has a big discovery. It turns out that the bathroom is the place where the girl wants to meet Woo Young-woo. She indeed meets her there. Ha-yang says that she and Jung truly love each other. The statement she gives to the police is also what her mother forces her to say, because her mother hates men and feels there is nothing good about them. Woo Young-woo quickly reminds her that Jung has previously relied on serving the community to date with the disabled. Ha-yang knows these things, and even so, still likes him unconditionally. Woo Young-woo realizes she has misunderstood, and says that as long as Ha-yang tells the truth in court, Jung wouldn't have to go to jail. But on the trial day, when the judge reads the victim's statement under strong pressure from her mother, Ha-yang is still unable to tell the truth. The final result of the case is that Jung is sentenced to 2 years in prison. Ha-yang doesn't dare tell the truth, and can only sit there and cry for her boyfriend. Woo Young-woo's heart also hurts. Can't people with disabilities really be happy in love? At night, when Lee Jun-ho and his classmates gather, one of his friends thinks that love with a disabled person isn't real love. It is just pity for the poor girl. He also says disrespectful words to Woo Young-woo, making Lee Jun-ho so angry that he punches him right away. After returning home, he meets Woo Young-woo in the hallway. She is filled with insecurities because of the case. Lee Jun-ho senses Woo Young-woo's insecurity and says, "Even if others say it isn't, if I say it is love, then it is love." Then he immediately approaches Woo Young-woo. To resolve her insecurity, Lee Jun-ho takes a step back. Woo Young-woo's eyes look straight at Lee Jun-ho. Perhaps thanks to love, she bravely takes a step forward and proactively kisses him. But elsewhere, Soo-mi reaches out to Woo Gwang-ho for the first time after more than 20 years. To avoid being exposed that Woo Young-woo is an illegitimate child, which affects her participation in the election, she wants the father and daughter to work at her branch in the US. Lee Jun-ho is having difficulty recognizing emotions. Woo Young-woo does not know basic awareness of emotions. Even though Lee Jun-ho passes in front of her, she sits still without speaking unless he discovers her first. Lee Jun-ho wonders why Woo Young-woo is sitting here. Woo Young-woo says because she wants to see him, so she waits here. Lee Jun-ho is very curious. If she was waiting for him, why didn't she call him just now? He almost goes away. Woo Young-woo thinks for a while and says her purpose is just to see him, and now she has seen him. Right now, Woo Young-woo receives a new case. A man carries a woman on his back, seemingly unaware of the eyes of those around him because her high heel was broken. Her husband worries about her, so he keeps carrying her to the office. Then, he places his wife on the chair to feel secure. Everyone can sense the smell of love. The two of them are the trustees of the case. The husband and two friends buy 3 lottery tickets together. Unexpectedly, one of them wins the first prize. The total prizes are up to 6.2 billion. They promise to divide it equally into 3 parts if they win the prize, but their friends are plastic. The other guy now betrays him and refuses to admit that he made such an agreement because it is only a verbal agreement and nothing is recorded in writing or recording. So, it is very difficult to prove the authenticity of that agreement. In addition, the money used to buy lottery tickets is obtained from illegal gambling, which violates civil law, making them an unprotected case. When the husband hears that, he panics and says to discuss with his friends later to hide the source of the money. Woo Young-woo disagrees. "Are you going to lie? Lying in court is absolutely unacceptable." At this point, the wife begins to use their sympathy, saying he is a good husband and father. Not long ago, he and his friend opened a coffee shop and were scammed. Right now, they can only live in a rented house with their 2 children. The whole family relies on a restaurant. They just want to be able to claim the bonus so their whole family can escape from difficult situations. Perhaps being touched by their sincere feelings, Woo Young-woo decides to help him again. So, she and the husband go to meet the witness. Luckily, the waiter helping them buy lottery tickets hears about their agreement to divide the prize money. If the waiter is willing to go to court to testify, his chances of winning will increase greatly. But the waiter is very afraid of going to court, so the husband quickly pulls him back and promises to repay him if he agrees to testify. But Woo Young-woo says he couldn't give him one agreement to provide money that exceeds a person's daily wage, so that someone can testify is illegal. Testimony will be considered invalid. Seeing Woo Young-woo being so stubborn, the husband can only silently express his idea to the waiter. But on the trial day, the waiter does not appear because he is an illegal immigrant. If he comes to testify, he will likely be deported. This time, they once again fall into a deadlock. When Woo Young-woo is working overtime, she calls Lee Jun-ho. Before receiving the call, Lee Jun-ho quickly adjusts his appearance and voice. But as soon as he answers, Woo Young-woo is about to hang up because she makes the video call just to see Lee Jun-ho. Now that she's seen him, her goal is achieved. But Lee Jun-ho doesn't want to hang up the phone yet. He tells Woo Young-woo to consider his feelings too. Later, please confirm if he wants to hang up or not. Under Lee Jun-ho's guidance, Woo Young-woo learns to tell jokes for the first time. On the trial day, a new witness suddenly appears. Unexpectedly, it is the girl working at the bar that they meet before. She says she heard the 3 promise to share the prize equally. The one winning the prize says she is lying, and that she has an illicit relationship with the husband and claims that they are scammers and have colluded in advance with the plaintiff. But he has no proof. And the waitress, of course, doesn't accept that. The husband sitting beside secretly gives her a heart. The waitress reveals a satisfied smile, but they don't know that Woo Young-woo sitting on the side sees everything. The intuition makes Woo Young-woo feel that something is very strange. She closely observes those 2 people, always feeling like something is wrong. In the end, thanks to those testimonies, the case has won. The 2 people each receive 1.4 billion. His wife is so happy that she can't hold back her tears of happiness. The next day, this husband happily brings the boxed lunch his wife made to thank Woo Young-woo. But then he asks her if he divorces his wife, will he have to divide the bonus? Woo Young-woo doesn't think much and says that the prize is due to luck, so it is not part of the assets to be divided. When that guy hears that, he happily leaves. Only then does Woo Young-woo realize that she seems to have done something wrong, so she quickly finds Lee Jun-ho to negotiate. That despicable guy wants to abandon his family after receiving money, but that guy is their client. They can't directly tell the wife about this, so Lee Jun-ho quickly suggests they use objects to represent people. Just like that, the two silently tell the wife the true face of that ungrateful husband. If she wants to divide assets, the only chance is to get evidence of that guy's promise to his wife. When Lee Jun-ho and Woo Young-woo go to meet that man's wife, they see him and the bar girl being intimate with each other, both of them openly having an affair. That ungrateful guy has a bonus of 1.4 billion, and he can't suppress his nature anymore. He is secretly finding a way to divorce his wife. It turns out that once he gets the money, he starts wasting it and spends 300 million to buy a luxury car. The wife does not agree, which is why there was a scene where he got mad earlier. At this time, she still doesn't know that her husband's remaining car is much more expensive. She still thinks her husband treats her very well. When Woo Young-woo hears it, she feels angry, so she and Lee Jun-ho sit down and follow the plan. They deliberately speak loudly to tell a story, except for changing people's names to object names. The rest is exactly the same as her family story. In that story, the husband not only wants a divorce, but also does not want to give his wife and children any money. It sounds even more infuriating when that bad guy has a lover outside. There is a saying that honor charges manners. It's truly unbelievable. Woo Young-woo sees that the wife is still half doubtful, so she could only remind her, if you don't want to be dumped by that bad guy like that, you must get a voice record for evidence. Unexpectedly, a few days later, his wife comes to the law office. Even though she doesn't want to believe it, that husband has already proposed a divorce to force her to sign. He goes to the restaurant every day to cause trouble. When her child tries to stop him, that cruel guy even attacks his own children. That's when she remembers Woo Young-woo once reminded her to collect evidence. But that guy is already prepared early, so that he won't have to share any money with them. Not only does he use his brother's card to receive the money, but her intention to record is also exposed. He doesn't give her any chance to hold his weakness, although attorney Jung Myung-seok and Woo Young-woo strongly sympathize with her. After all, he is their previous client, so they couldn't take on this case. Moreover, in a situation where there is no evidence, the best result is just to get a little more child support fee. When Lee Jun-ho and Woo Young-woo come home with her, they see that guy getting out of his luxury car. He walks arrogantly, so people say, not afraid of the rich, only afraid of the newly rich. His despicable face scares Woo Young-woo. He then challenges them to go over there. The wife doesn't want to quarrel here, so she decides to get in the car and leave. But when the law of karma takes effect, karma doesn't spare anyone. When he crosses the street despite the red light, he is hit straight by another car from the side. Woo Young-woo sees it with her own eyes and is seriously shocked. Lee Jun-ho immediately comes to her and hugs her tightly to help her calm down. Finally, the wife has the right to use all assets, go around in a big circle, and finally, it returns to its rightful owner. After a period of getting to know each other, Woo Young-woo overcomes her insecurity. She bravely takes a big step, and they both kiss outside her house while her father finds out this. Meanwhile, Kwon Min-woo discovers that Woo Young-woo is Tae Soo-mi's illegitimate child, so he uses his dirty tactic to threaten her to let him work at Taeson law firm. Hearing that, she immediately makes a request. If Kwon Min-woo can make Woo Young-woo leave Hanbada, no matter if she thinks for herself or is kicked out, then he will become Taeson's lawyer. Being a father of a girl with autism, he would never think she has a boyfriend. After a period of intense psychological struggle, he decided to ask a little to make sure his daughter is not deceived. Unexpectedly, Woo Young-woo denies she has a boyfriend, making him surprised. Since when did his naive daughter already know how to lie, hiding so carefully that even her dad never notices it? This performance deserves an Oscar, he says. He directly states that he saw her kissing Lee Jun-ho downstairs, so the little secret has been discovered. When questioned by her father, Woo Young-woo says they are not officially dating yet because of physical and psychological obstacles. Today, Woo Young-woo receives a very difficult case. When the company adjusts its personnel, they introduce a condition for spouses working there. Only one person can stay. If no one proactively submits a resignation letter, the company will remove the husbands by default. and most of the wives will proactively resign. However, 2 female employees sue the company for discrimination against women. She also criticizes those who sued the company, but unexpectedly the plaintiff's lawyer exposes her. Her husband has cancer and needs her to take care. The company gives her a 3-month paid leave so she could testify in court. After the trial, those 2 colleagues not only do not blame her for helping the company testify, but also encourage her. She feels guilty, so she keeps apologizing before leaving. The 2 female employees also buy food for the lawyer. Woo Young-woo is surprised that the plaintiff treated the defendant lawyer so enthusiastically. Woo Young-woo is attracted to her decorations. Even though they eat their food, work still has to be done. They need to find more evidence that the 2 female employees actively resigned. On the way, Woo Young-woo discovers a nearby taxi with advertising stickers similar to the employees' decorations. Maybe that's the clue they're looking for. Choi Soo-yeon and Kwon Min-woo think she is just too sensitive, but Lee Jun-ho immediately turns around and chases the taxi. Professional treatment of infertility, the women's hospital. That night, Kwon Min-woo thinks about his transaction with Tae Soo-mi again. He comes up with a perfect plan to make Woo Young-woo leave the Hanbada law firm, so he must find a way to make Woo Young-woo leave Hanbada. He decides to start by defaming Hanbada. That night, he goes to Woo Young-woo's office and starts complaining to her. Sometimes you will have to take on some jobs that are not right, even helping those with money and power and oppressing the weak. Then he seems to accidentally mention the company's personnel adjustment case they have just accepted. The way to reduce 1 person in each couple is suggested by Hanbada, and they have already devised strategies to deal with all the parts not beneficial for the company legally. From the very beginning, their actions have the purpose of discriminating against women. Then, before leaving, Kwon Min-woo gives Woo Young-woo all the detailed documents related to the case. She immediately finds Jung Myung-seok because she sees that those things are completely a trick designed to trick the female employees. If they win, they will all become better in this case. Using the weak employees' infertility as an attack point is really despicable. Woo Young-woo believes that they can no longer refuse this case, but at least they should not use such dirty tricks to harm the other party. That way of speaking makes Jung Myung-seok very angry. He says, "Lawyers are not superheroes who protect the world with love and friendship. Our responsibility is to advocate, put the protection of the client's interests first." So she goes to Lee Jun-ho to ask for advice. Is it true that judging right or wrong is the judge's right, and the lawyer must concentrate on defending the client? Lee Jun-ho says that whether a new lawyer or an experienced lawyer, all have their own answer, but they cannot come to a conclusion in a moment and must give themselves time to think. The day the judge was in court, Woo Young-woo overcame her own struggles. The questioning is still carried out as planned. Because the plaintiff has infertility and has a reproductive plan, when the company proposes to cut staff, she would definitely accept. Although attacking the weak point will hurt the other side, she still can't find the answer for herself. Woo Young-woo has no other choice. After the trial, the plaintiff's lawyer proactively comes to meet her. She has read about her in the newspaper before. Even though she is an opponent, she highly praises an autistic lawyer like her. Kwon Min-woo stands from afar, watching that scene, and is secretly happy. With just one more step, he could make Woo Young-woo unable to change the situation. The couple has a date full of innocent and strange things. Woo Young-woo and Lee Jun-ho go on a date but just play a game of finding differences all day. With her ability to observe, Woo Young-woo is like the king of the game. She defeats Lee Jun-ho and makes him unable to do anything. She is immersed in the game and completely forgets about the existence of her lover. On the way home, he sees her looking around. From the moment her father says he saw them kissing, Woo Young-woo always feels like he is watching her, even though her father tells her to bring Lee Jun-ho home to meet him. Woo Young-woo has no intention of doing so because the two have not officially started dating yet. Lee Jun-ho blankly asks why they haven't officially started yet. In Woo Young-woo's mind, if they haven't officially said they are dating, it's not considered an official relationship. Lee Jun-ho feels himself like an idiot. He is always trying to find ways to make her happy. On weekends, Woo Young-woo goes all day to collect trash or plays Find the Difference games all day. Everything seems to be torturing him. They are not interesting to him at all. Woo Young-woo asks him why he doesn't feel happy but still tries to continue playing. Lee Jun-ho could only reply, "Because I like you." Yet, until now, we are still not considered officially dating. I really feel so sad. At the same time, Kwon Min-woo sneaks into Woo Young-woo's office. He searches for documents, pastes the delivery address, and adds her business card. Those are documents that can turn the tide of the case. Just send them out in Woo Young-woo's name, then when the plaintiff's side opens in court, she will be kicked out of Hanbada. Everything goes according to plan, but soon Kwon Min-woo has to be surprised because the plaintiff's lawyer does not open that document. She finds new evidence. The handbook of the head of the human resources department of that company clearly recorded the senior leader's plan to force female employees to quit. Jung, Myung-seok, points out that the evidence they have is taken in an unclear way, so it could not be valid. Woo Young-woo reminds him that it is an article of the criminal code, but this case is a civil proceeding. Unexpectedly, the mic is not turned off. The plaintiff's lawyer clings to that as a way out and strongly gives a rebuttal. Woo Young-woo notices the opponent's actions and sees the person helping them get the notebook. It is none other than the female colleague who testified for the company. However, the final verdict is still that the company wins the lawsuit because although the discriminatory behavior against women is real, the fact that female employees voluntarily quit jobs is also real. The plaintiff's attorney appears to have lost, but in fact, she has won. After the case ends, she gives the documents that Kwon Min-woo has secretly sent to Woo Young-woo. If she used this thing, Woo Young-woo would definitely get into trouble. As she sees it, she knows this is a trick to harm her. She alerts Woo Young-woo to raise caution to her colleagues. Woo Young-woo is forced to pay an unreasonable toll on the public way near a landscape area. He decides to bring his team members and Lee Jun-ho to meet his sister, who lives on Jeju Island. The situation is tense as Woo Young-woo's sister has always wanted to go there, but big law offices don't pay attention to small cases like this. Despite the unusual circumstances, they obediently pay the toll fee, surrounded by trees and green foliage. At the trial, Woo Young-woo feels oppressive from his opponent, who accuses him of leaving behind his regrets from his past. The next day, Woo Young-woo prepares to watch whales with Lee Jun-ho, but no whales are discovered. She peels fruit and helps Lee Jun-ho's family with rice rolls, but she struggles to swallow the food due to her past. Lee Jun-ho advises him to break up with her, but Woo Young-woo is left behind and doesn't know what to do. At the court, Myung-seok falls to the ground in pain, unable to bear the pain anymore. The trial highlights the challenges faced by individuals with mental health issues, such as those dealing with the loss of a loved one, or the difficulty of dealing with personal issues. She and Jung Myung-seok, who has been suffering from the disease, decide to find the owner of a famous noodle shop to help him pass away peacefully. However, they face challenges in finding the owner, as the chef who hired them was once a disciple of the owner of the Happy Noodle shop. The court reveals that the National Highway Repair Project would destroy the peace of the temple and cause many deaths due to the construction process. Woo Young-woo's ex-wife, Choi Ji-soo, knows about Jung Myung-seok's cancer and visits her, but the case remains inconclusive. Woo Young-woo decides to break up with Lee Jun-ho, hoping to find someone who can help her feel happy. However, she begins to doubt herself and decides to step back, fearing that her actions could affect Lee Jun-ho's future. During the trial, Woo Young-woo finds a key point to speak up about the use of public resources in the case. The case ends successfully, and Jung Myung-seok decides to visit the temple again and discovers that the toll booth is closed. The abbot welcomes them and invites them to the canteen for dinner, where they see the Happy Noodle shop owner fulfilling Jung Myung-seok's wish. As Soo-mi runs for the Minister of Justice election, Han Seon-young contacts a reporter to expose Woo Young-woo's illegitimate child on election day. This story highlights the challenges faced by autistic individuals in finding a suitable partner and navigating the complex relationships between family, work, and personal life. Woo's mother, who is known for her high survival rate, encourages him to come out alive. When Jung Myung-seok is hospitalized, Jang Seung-jun takes over his work and investigates a large customer attack on Korea's largest online shopping system. The supervisory agency issues a sky-high fine of 3 billion won, based on previous similar cases. Woo Young-woo argues that Rayon's users make up 80% of the nation's population, and that Rayon's side hasn't applied technology to protect user account information. Lawyer Jang Seung-jun is defeated by Woo Young-woo's OCD, leaving him without dignity and the case falling into a deadlock. The director orders that this time, he must win the case. Jang Seung-jun plans to rely on his classmates' relationships to bribe the judge, but is met with apprehension from the judge. He appoints Choi Soo-yeon as his representative, believing that Rayon's users will still hack even if Rayon applies security technology. However, the supervisory agency points out the latest implemented bill as a fatal hit, and the company will be responsible for leaked information. Rayon's CEO, Choi Soo-yeon, refuses to accept this truth, taking out a pill and swallowing it in front of the court. The three escape, and while discussing the case, Choi Soo-yeon reveals that the time hackers attacked Rayon coincides with the date the new bill takes effect. Unexpectedly, lawyer Jang Sung-jun gets angry and scolds Choi Soo-yeon, who contradicts him. At the final trial, lawyer Jang Seung-jun goes out without seeing the date, and the supervisory agency uses his own arguments to refute Choi Soo-yeon's argument, helping them win the case. Woo Young-woo returns home alone and sees Lee Jun-ho waiting for her for a long time. His sister's words cause a twinge in her heart. At the same time, a plot involving Woo Young-woo is about to be uncovered. Initially, to get her into Hanbada, her father agrees to let the director use her identity once to attack Tae Soo-mi. Unexpectedly, the incident turns into revealing her identity as her illegitimate child online. The mysterious hacker is actually a young teenager who is Tae Soo-mi's son. Woo Young-woo, a half-blood sister of Choi Sang-hyun, meets her brother for the first time. Woo confesses to being the hacker they are looking for, and the Rayon Group is on the brink of bankruptcy. Director Kim Chan-hong, who had a disagreement with CEO Bae In-cheol, deceives Sang-hyun to steal user information. Director Bae harms himself to prove his innocence, making Sang-hyun unable to bear it any longer. Sang-hyun discovers Woo's existence on his mother's computer, and she decides to find lawyer Woo to talk about the situation. The CEO of Hanbada, Han Seon-young, takes the next lawsuit seriously and participates in the discussion. Woo Young-woo is on the side of equity, and director Han believes this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to help Tae Soo-mi's election campaign. Woo Young-woo decides to take her brother's confession video to expose director Kim's crimes, as the law firm cannot cause conflicts of interest for clients. She encrypts the information taken from users, so personal information is not exposed. Director Han cancels the plan to attack Tae Soo-mi by revealing Woo Young-woo's identity. Kwon Min-woo presents a dismissal letter for the company representative, and director Bae holds a shareholder meeting to cut off director Kim's way out. Finally, her younger brother appears at the trial. His confession earns director Bae's forgiveness. Woo Young-woo also completes the interrogation of her younger brother herself. Tae Soo-mi voluntarily withdraws from her candidate position to focus on taking care of her child. The case receives a big victory. Director Kim is arrested. The lost data is preserved intact and restored. Nothing bad happened, and because her younger brother, as a juvenile, voluntarily confesses, he is sent to a re-education camp for 1 month. Myung-seok, after his illness improved, reconciled with his former wife. At the end of the story, the strange lawyer Woo Young-woo finds her happiness. Having gone through many difficulties, she finally has the most beautiful days of her life with Lee Jun-ho. Don't forget to like and share. Subscribe so you don't miss more recaps like this.